Riddell Harris. Here. Mayor Dowden Calvillo.
Present. Let the record show we do have a quorum today for the purposes of our meeting. And Councilwoman Riddell Harris, will you please join us or lead the pledge? Not
Happy
join,
to.
but-
Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so very much. Can everyone hear okay? I kind of feel like the mic isn't on, but are we good to go? Well, okay, good. All right. As far as the next item on the agenda, mayor's commendations, proclamations, and acknowledgements. We don't have any on the agenda, but I did want to give a big shout out to all the volunteers that worked so diligently on the Auburn's Veterans Day celebration. The parades celebrated its 100th birthday this year, which is just amazing. They did get a tile in Central Square to commemorate that wonderful event. But it was a great parade, lots of new folks there. I had the opportunity to walk up and down the parade route before it started and meet the various folks that were there. We had the submarine branch was their first showing at the parade this year from Gold Country, U.S. Navy submarine program.
They were underwater.
They were under the street.
They were right next to the Sky Ridge Dance Club, and they
Oh,
had
so-
quite the kids loved seeing the model submarine. It was
Yeah.
cool.
So we also had some veterans that had service dogs in training.
Mhm.
So it was great though. Well, very well attended. The celebration at the Sierra Building was great as well. And thank you to our very own Councilman Holmes, who is also a veteran. So thank you for your service, sir. We appreciate that. And our chief, we can't forget him. Hoorah, Marine. And to all veterans, we thank very much. So absolutely. All right, next item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. Unless there's any objection, I'll consider the agenda accepted. Hearing none, that shall be the order. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Any changes to the consent agenda, council?
I'd like to remove. Item 8.
Item 8, okay.
I'd like to remove item 5.
Item 5 and item 8. All right. Any other items? Would the public like to remove any items from the consent calendar at this time? Hearing none?
Mayor, I'd like to make a note on
Yes.
item 9. There's a minor revision due to a typo on the termination date on the professional services agreement. There's a copy in front of you. There's also a copy in the back for public review. Originally, the termination date had indicated March of 2023, and the actual termination date is in March of 2024.
Okay, so without objection, we'll consider that that particular item amended. Hearing no objection, that shall be the order. Council, what's your pleasure with regards to the consent agenda?
I'll motion to approve the consent agenda with removing items 5 and 8.
I'll second
that.
And as 9 amended. All
Oh,
right,
it
it's
is
been
9
moved and
amended.
seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Amara.
Yes.
Holmes.
Aye.
Riddell Harris.
Aye.
Mayor Dowden Calvillo.
Aye. Let the record show the motion has been adopted unanimously. All right, item number 5. Councilman Holmes,
Mhm.
you asked to have that item off. I actually had some questions too, but please.
Yes, well, I would like to see this as a regular agenda item rather than on consent because it raised a number of questions about how our finances are doing. And let me find the specific area that I had marked here.
Well, go ahead. Did you find it?
Yes. So I'm wondering about all our LAIF, and it showed that we dropped from the last report about $4 million from LAIF. And I wasn't quite sure what happened there and why that $4 million went down.
Good evening, Donna Silva, City Treasurer. The decline in LAIF was due to some transfers that were made by your Administrative Services Director, Nathan Bagwell, with my concurrence out of LAIF into the checking account to cover some large payments that there were, and there was an insufficient balance in the checking account to make those payments.
wasn't that the overlay project?
Yeah. I'm not sure specifically what it was. That's
But I
yeah,
think,
but that, yeah. But it is common for your cash balances to fall. This time of year, you get significant, revenues in from your property taxes, which come primarily in January, February, and May. So this period of time in your annual cycle, you'll usually see a drop in your cash.
Okay,
did you have any other questions, Councilman?
well, it was taken out of the LAIF by whose authority?
The Administrative Services Director, your Finance Director, Nathan Bagwell,
Our former
correct?
administrative service director. Okay.
Correct. He was here at the time.
Sean, do you want to address that a little bit? Maybe just give clarification for the councilman.
So typically, as Donna said, we get property taxes in January, February, and then again in May. So this is kind of, I just talked to Andy Heath, who was filling in as the interim finance director for us. This is kind of like the dry part of our year, fiscal year, because we don't have revenue coming in. So we end up transferring money out of LAIF into our checking account to pay the bills that we had. Significant bills that came through are for the overlay project that we did that's just wrapped up. Also like the helicopter pad stuff that's on the council agenda for tonight, that probably was a little piece of that too. That's funded by grant revenue, but we don't get all that money up front. It's on a reimbursement basis. So the finance director, with concurrence with our city treasurer and talking to me, has the authority to move money investments back and forth out of the LAIF account into the checking account to make sure that we're able to basically pay our bills. But when we get the money in from the property taxes in January, we end up doing a transfer back into LAIF because we don't want to keep a bunch of money in the checking account. We keep as small amount as we can. Small amount for the city though is like,
$1
$1.5 million,
million.
$2 million. So, but we don't like to keep much more than that because we obviously don't want money sitting around where we're not accruing any kind of interest.
Right. And at September 30th, you did have more money in the general checking account than I would normally recommend. You do not need $6.9 million in your general checking account. However, you are very short-staffed in your finance department right now. And it seemed prudent to leave it there, especially given the time of year that it is, knowing that we're in that dry period. I wouldn't want the city to start bouncing checks. And with the limited staffing that you have right now in that situation, I'm comfortable with the level of cash in the account.
And I know this ebbs and flows again with property taxes and things of that nature. So since we did take this off consent, I know there's been some discussion on perhaps the city looking into a little bit more of an aggressive investment portfolio. We're certainly restricted because we're a municipality and what we can invest in, unlike this is, private citizens. But that might be, that might be prudent for us to maybe take a look at that. I don't know if that's something that is our treasurer that you would take a look at, what opportunities we might have. Clearly, we need to live within the guidelines that are mandated by the government, but I don't know what these interest rates are that we're getting, but we might be able to invest a little bit more aggressive, but still being safe, of course, but.
Absolutely. The city's investments are governed by your investment policy, which is constrained by the state government code. So you have that in place. And interestingly, I was just talking with your interim finance director today, Andy Heath, about the investment portfolio. And he asked me to reach out to some investment advisors to get someone under contract to manage the portfolio. And so I will be initiating some phone calls this week.
Excellent. I appreciate that. I think that's sound advice for us and look forward to maybe seeing a little bit of change there. So
Yes, but
thank you.
fortunately, as soon as we can get money out to LAIF, LAIF has a tendency to move quickly. It increases quickly and it decreases quickly. So it makes sense to lock your investments into some longer term
Mhm.
investment vehicles. But right now it's on the upside. So LAIF at September 30th, LAIF was earning you over 3.5%.
Wow.
You can do a little better than that
Sure.
out in the market. So we're definitely going to take those steps and come back to you with something. But if you're
Great.
not earning, 3.5% still sure is better than it was a year ago.
Yes. Yes. Great. Thank you.
You're
Are there
welcome.
other questions for our city treasurer at this time? Councilman, do you have any other questions?
No,
Okay, great.
Um,
And-
actually, I do have one more question. I did hear a comment that perhaps you would like the treasurer's report to be on your regular agenda, or is it the pleasure of the council to keep it on consent going forward, or do you want it on the regular agenda?
I think that, you know, the quarterly updates are good. And we can always remove the items when they're not on consent if we have questions.
Yes.
You know, so, you know, because it isn't something, generally, we don't talk about it. If there's a little, like in this instance, there was a decrease and it wasn't really clear as to why. And so I had the same question, Councilman. I actually asked Sean about that earlier today. I was wondering what to do, exactly what that was. So I think, council, that going forward, we can continue to keep this as a quarterly report on consent, knowing that the item may come off. And what I would do is, if it is the pleasure of the council, is that if we know we have questions or concerns about that report, to give Sean a heads up so that Donna can be here, our city treasurer can be here for that item to address it. So I think, would that address your?
Why, certainly. You are so wise. I don't know how you do that, but
I never know when you're messing with me, Councilman.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much. All right. With that said, any public comment on this item? Hearing none, what's the pleasure of the council?
I move that we approve item 5 on the consent agenda.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Amara.
Yes.
Holmes.
Aye.
Riddell Harris.
Aye.
Mayor Dowden Calvillo.
Aye. Let the record show the motion has been adopted unanimously as we move right along to item number 8. And Councilwoman, you had some questions?
Yes, I pulled this because I think we all received a public comment from Ms. Olszewski, and I think those questions should be answered. I kind of agree with the suggestion, but I know we have some parameters, and so I would like to address those. And I'm also wondering if we have some latitude in terms of how we are able to conduct the outreach. And did you see the? I'm gonna read the questions to you.
I forwarded it to our city manager. Oh, okay. So no, he hasn't
Well,
received.
I'll ask you a couple of questions if you'd like. One of them is just what progress has been achieved so far in terms of what we're trying to put into action for this SB 1383.
So I should have you, first of all, good evening, Council, Madam Mayor, Mendel Dean, Public Works Manager. So tonight before you, the item is just for the city trying to acquire the grant funds for 1383. It's $75,000. So with your question,
Well, you know what, I'll defer that question. Then you just go ahead and explain then from your perspective, what that is and what guidelines and parameters we have.
no, absolutely. So the reason why this is before you tonight is there's a deadline of the 15th of this month to get these this grant application in. There's some guidelines that stipulate what these funds can be used for. It's granted, it's very broad, it's very wide. We can use it for capacity planning, collection, edible food recovery, education and outreach, enforcement inspection, program evaluation, and et cetera. We haven't determined what we're going to use those funds for. They're just available to us for any of those categories. Of course, with the council's guidance, once we get those funds in-house, we can identify specifically what we would like to use those funds for.
So we can use it for organic bins to be placed around, or even trash cans or that kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a myriad of reasons and allowable uses for these funds. We just haven't determined exactly what we're going to do with them yet. The idea is to just get the funds home and then figure out what we're going to do with them after.
So there's a lot of latitude for it.
To some degree, yes.
Okay, thank you.
So, and thank you very much, Councilwoman. I do want to cautious this though, when we talk about separate bins for the organic waste, because it's not just separating that it has to be separated in the vehicle. And that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
So where it might be easy and cheap to purchase, well, I don't know how 10,000 bins, I don't know how much that would be. We'd have to have a whole nother issue with regards to collection and all of that. So I would think that, you know, that's probably a much bigger issue, but
And I guess that's part of the question.
yeah,
is
it would be, in my humble opinion.
strategically, I mean, and I don't need an answer now.
Yeah, but the mayor's absolutely right. If it's the council's privilege for us to do that, we can certainly do it, but there would be more funds required to accomplish that. It isn't as simple as just getting the bins as mentioned.
Yeah.
But the funds would be eligible for that usage should we decide that's the direction we'd like to go.
It seems to me that, with SB 1383, the organics law, we are in compliance with that because we're purchasing those diversion credits and so forth, through the Pioneer. But, and I appreciate that you kind of provided a couple of different options, doing some marketing. Really, it seems like more of our effort should be with the commercial side because they actually have more to do than the residents, right? The residents aren't changing the way they're disposing of the organics, but the commercial customers with the food waste and the donations and things of that nature, there's more involved.
Yeah, absolutely. And keep in mind that the purchasing of the credits is just one aspect of the 6 that we're required to meet.
Sure.
Outreach and education are a big component of that too. Obviously, we haven't been honed in and focused on that because we've been doing that throughout the years, but there's opportunities for us to increase that moving forward.
But just to follow up, finish my questions, then, so we can purchase some bins if we wanted and place it at, I like the idea, commercial, or, so it gives us, we have some latitude. It doesn't necessarily have to be for social media and that kind of thing.
Oh,
Is that
absolutely.
what I hear you saying?
Yes, but we have to keep in mind that our franchise agreement with Recology would require us to take different action on top of that.
Yeah,
So,
there would be a big cost.
yes.
Yes, Councilwoman.
I'm not talking about changing the whole program.
No, absolutely. So to answer your question, yes, we have the ability to purchase those bins
Flexibility.
should we choose to go that direction.
Things around this issue have been changing and evolving, and it's been very hazy and trying to understand it. I was hoping that maybe over the next month or two, maybe we could have an update on this topic, go over kind of what the plan is, because we don't want to be just purchasing bins. We don't want to be just making decisions without knowing what the long-term game plan is around this, because that's might end up us wasting money if we're not sure what things are going to be used for. So can we just put it on the agenda to kind of go over this
Yeah.
and make sure we're all on the same page?
I was actually going to recommend the same thing.
Okay,
Just
great.
but I think the item tonight is to make sure that
Get
you
the
allow,
money,
that we
Yeah,
can get the
grants
money,
separate, but-
right? And then we'll bring something
Yeah.
back, talking about where we're at.
I think that's a great idea. Is the criteria, because everybody gets the money, is it per capita? Is that how they're distributing it?
It's definitely per capita.
Okay, I just had a question on that. So then I think then, if we're able to approve this item tonight, then we'll just come back, staff will come back and just give us an idea of what specifically you're looking at.
Utilize.
Really, we just needed to get this, so we can get the money, and then we can you can come up with a more sound proposal and we can go from there.
Absolutely.
Councilman Holmes.
Yes, well, one of the things the Sustainability Committee has been looking at is for takeaway boxes that we shift from those that are
Styrofoam.
styrofoam and not
Not biodegradable.
biodegradable. Yes, thank you. To other that are biodegradable, and I'm not quite sure where things stand from the Sustainability Committee as to how successful that program has gone. I know they've gone out to restaurants and made suggestions about changing, but in the last couple of weeks, several places that I've gone to and I've had something to take home, it's basically a styrofoam thing. So I think that would be a good use of.
And it would be an allowed use. As I mentioned, that these funds are available for education and outreach. And in my opinion, this kind of meets that criteria.
We have lots of options. So really the best way is to bring your own container to the restaurant.
If it's biodegradable,
You wash it at home.
or wash it at home.
Useful.
So thank you, Minjo. I appreciate that. I think you've educated people here. It's not just for social media and we're not going to contract with a firm just to do media type stuff.
That's correct.
Thank you.
But it could be a small component. I mean, education is part of that. So
Well, we have the education requirement as part of 13.
yeah, we are required to do some
Oh.
of that by SB 1383 in order to access the funds. There are certain criteria.
And also to meet our
The requirements.
Yeah.
That's right. Good old SB 1383. Good. Okay,
I'll
thank
make a
you.
motion.
Is there any other questions, council members, on this item? Any public comment on this item? Hearing none, what's the pleasure of the council?
I move we authorize city manager and or his designee to submit an application for SB 1383 Local Assistant Grant Program through the State of California Department of Resources, Recycling and Recovery.
Second,
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Amara.
Yes.
Holmes.
aye.
Riddell Harris. Mayor Dowden Calvillo.
Aye, let the record show the motion has been adopted unanimously, and once we've collected those dollars, we'll look forward to having a report back on ways that we can spend just the mere $75,000. Doesn't go too far anymore. All right, that concludes our consent agenda for tonight. Next item on the agenda is public comment. This is an opportunity for any member of the public to address the council on items not scheduled for action today. Again, we can't take action on those items. We can refer them to staff if it is appropriate. So with that, I will open public comment. Is there any public comment? Yes, please come on up and introduce yourself if you'd like, please.
Public comment is limited to 3 minutes, and for the public, I'm providing a timer so they know where they are in their 3 minutes.
Right up there on the screen. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Hi, my name's Joan Maxwell. I live in South Auburn, off of Maidu and Auburn Folsom Road, and I would like to see a bike lane on Auburn Folsom Road. That's why I'm here. I'm so interested in it that I posted a little thing about this meeting tonight on the Maidu neighborhood Facebook page, and almost 100 people responded. So I'm not the only one who wants this. My friend Allie here also feels the same way. And anyway, of those comments, most of them were positive. There were some negative ones, but most of them were pretty good comments. So that's it. That's why I'm here.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Additional public comment?
Wait, I have a question, Ms. Maxwell. Can you also tell us who you are in the ghost tours?
I'm Alma Bell.
Oh, that's why it looks familiar. I'm like, I know that voice.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional public comment at this time?
Yes.
Yes, Councilman.
Well, you already mentioned something, but I'd like to thank the Auburn Police Department and the Fire Department for their help with the Veterans Day Parade. It went exceedingly well, I think. And also, I just want to mention that 10 days from today is Thanksgiving. And on the 22nd of November, 1963, our President Kennedy was assassinated, which will be 60 years ago. So I just thought I would mention that for people to consider that next week.
Thank you for the reminder. Yes.
Yes, and you went so fast, or I was too slow. In terms of the bike situation, the bike lane comment, I just want to comment that I think we need a kind of an update. There is a lot of interest in bike lanes, and we're doing a lot of different. The interest in biking is taking a lot of directions. There's the e-bike, there's the bike paths, there's the bike trails, there's the bike lockers. So I think at some point it would be really nice if we could have staff come back and maybe give some sort of little update for us and kind of put it all together. No rush, but then, and we can address the concerns of all the people that are interested in bikes and show that we are moving forward, hopefully.
It also might be good to talk about how that's incorporated into our general planning that we're doing right now, because
circulation.
we've already agreed that bike lanes are going to be part of that planning process
I
that
think-
we're in
I
right
think
now.
that's
So
all
just
part of
making sure. Yep.
And it's also an item that's been on the traffic committee for several months now. So
Great.
And again, we will be addressing these kinds of issues in our circulation element for our general plan. So these kinds of things are ripe for that. So at least for the discussion purposes, we don't want to get too far ahead of that process because we really need to have those documents in place in order to get grants and things like that. So in any event, so thank you very much. All right, next item on the agenda. Is there any additional public comment? No, are you getting up for public comment or are you getting up for your?
The next item, I think.
You're getting ready for the next item. Madam Clerk, nobody online for public comment? No, that's right. We eliminated that. All
Oh,
right,
Is there a reason why we stopped?
there we
Okay,
go.
There we go.
It's kind of like my sports watch when I'm running. Pause. No, I'm still running. I'm just slow. All right. Well, next item on the agenda is business. We have an informational item. Again, council, this is informational only. This is an informational update from Auburn Energy Junction for Collectron Energy. And Jonathan?
I believe there. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, council members. Jonathan Wright, Community and Economic Development Director. I believe their team, Collectron's team's online to give the presentation. I would like to just give a little background. So it was almost 2 years ago that we had the presentation with Collectron or Auburn Energy Junction. At that meeting, staff gave or council gives direction to move forward with them, to allow them to submit an application to us, in which they have. We've worked with them intermittently for the last 2 years. There's been some, starts and stops. And then, of course, we've had new council members. We have a new city manager. And then last September, they reached out to us again and kind of wanted to get an update and have everybody get an update of where where they're at in the process, what to look forward to in the upcoming time here, and what we can expect. So I'll turn it over to Mike Becker and his team.
Hey, everybody. Good evening. Can we hear us?
Yes, we can hear you.
Excellent. Excellent. Nice to see friendly faces again. Hope everybody's had a pleasant year. Thank you so much for having the team back here this evening. We will make this concise and happy to open up for any questions that you may have. I'm Mike Becker with Collectron Energy. With us today, we have Alex Hassan, also of Collectron Energy, and Kari McDonald of Bioenergy Solutions. And this evening, we would like to touch base on the Auburn Energy Junction project. Alex, please.
Yes, absolutely. Really quickly, I just wanted to make sure that our slides are being presented here. Are we relying on the city council team? There we go. Perfect. Excellent. Also, good evening, city council members. Thank you so much for making the time for us in your undoubtedly busy agenda. As we're reaching the holiday season and year end, we're excited to be making some good progress on the project that we've been discussing for some time now, as our friend Mr. Wright just explained. So really quick, you can just pop over to the next slide here and we'll get started. To recap, this project is a biomass to energy facility that is primarily, in this case, being used for the purpose of disposing of the post-treatment wastewater sludge at the city and other sources of organics waste that the city may want to divert from landfills, which is topical discussion on the heels of the SB 1383 comments that we were just hearing earlier. So this particular facility is proposed as a extremely economically efficient and operationally minimally disruptive solution. In fact, probably more efficient in the long run from a time and energy standpoint for the city to dispose of your post-treatment sludge compared to the status quo. And it operates as a full turnkey, disposal solution, eliminating the need for the hauling and tipping expenses that are currently paid by the city to truck dewatered sludge somewhere in the realm of 20 to 40 miles away from the wastewater treatment plant, depending on which landfills are available to be to receive that sludge. So eliminating that environmentally and economically costly endeavor would save the city an average of around $200,000 per year over the 25-year proposed lifetime and operating term of the facility. That's a minimum term, as we understand it from the city, given that this is a long-term problem that you're hoping to solve. So the total estimated value to the city, which you can do that calculation, I'm sure, is $5 million over 25 years thereabouts, just from the operational savings. assuming that the cost of, diesel gasoline continues to rise and your hauling fees and tipping fees would continue to rise with the cost of inflation. You have more money to gain likely over the long run if you were to factor in more aggressive growth rates of inflation. Additional electricity savings are available via an optional power purchasing agreement. Given that the facility is located on site, it would be essentially adjacent to and then supplement to the existing solar photovoltaic system at the wastewater treatment plant, and it would be able to offset the entire shortfall of electricity from the wastewater treatment plant resulting from that PPA that is currently in place with the solar provider. But primarily, what we are focused on is removing the sludge disposal issues that you are going to be facing as a result of SB 1383 and rising costs related to hauling and disposal. So for, without further ado here, I can just turn everything over to Kari for a more in-depth, explanation of how the facility works from an overview standpoint and how it reduces the carbon footprint of the facility or of the city's operations by weaving into the wastewater treatment plant's operations. So Kari, go ahead and take it from here.
Thank you everyone for the opportunity to present tonight. I do apologize if I'm a little raspy. Winter has found me, so I've got my winter voice this evening. Again, my apologies. Tonight's presentation is very brief. We just want to walk through the technical aspects of the of the facility itself, and then update status on the application itself. So our facilities are 90% modular. The intent of this is that it is flexible. It will utilize the biosolids from the wastewater treatment plant and incorporate the entire operation within the existing operation of the wastewater treatment plants. We will utilize a space identified in a previous site meeting that is underutilized within the footprint, as currently holds some residual materials, some storage areas. So the intent is to fold the structure within the existing facility and reduce any additional need for construction, roads, utilizing existing ingress and egress, and allowing for a hand-in-glove approach to the incorporation of the system into the existing footprint. The facilities itself are a carbon negative. We have no emissions from the system itself, and we control all of the balance of syngas or use of gas within the facility and send everything else to a battery source and then feed it out from there. So it is very much a small footprint system. And we'll go through each of the technical components here to get everybody up to speed as to what this looks like. Can we go to the next slide, please? So how does this work? What does this thing actually look like? We utilize pyrolysis to take on the wastewater treatment biosolids and blend it with a biomass waste, be it tree tops, residuals, forest cutting, walnut waste. We have a two-phase process, and at Auburn, we will actually have two systems. They will be two sets of CCANs stacked on top of each other that will run concurrently. This allows us for maintenance and control and to allow us to adapt and increase and decrease as needed. The feedstock travels through the upper conveyor and results in a biochar production at the back end inside the structure of the facility itself. The upper syngas that is produced actually powers the system. We use between 20 and 25 kV to power the entire operation. All of the other surplus is then sent to battery backup or to available use within the wastewater treatment. So it's a highly efficient system, and it has the ability to adapt, increase, decrease temperatures, to adjust to moisture content and load and things of that sort. So pyrolysis has been around for the better part of 75 years globally. It's not a new technology. We've done refinements on it to fit within footprints of communities versus old chimney formats that had vent stacks and biomass to power. Go to the next one, please. This is sort of a simplified overlay of where the facility will sit within the wastewater treatment plant. We'll utilize the ingress and egress of the facility itself. Our final piece that we have to work with is where we plan to set up the additional waste, the additional storage cylinders. You can see the rectangles at the bottom that are in sort of the salmon color. That's where our OCE or the pyrolysis units sit. The green area is where the bioprocess happens. And then on the left-hand side is where the tanking system happens. One of the questions we often get is, how do we manage the feedstock? We fold within the operation. So we receive and release materials from our site concurrent to the operation of the wastewater treatment plant. And so we don't interfere with community operation hours. We don't get onto roads when communities are moving school buses. We work within the operating hours of all bylaws within the city or community. And that is the intent, is that we are flexible enough to work within those hours, unlike a 24/7 operation. Go to the next one, please. Our primary building is what we refer to as a sprung structure. It is put onto a concrete slab. Sprung structures, we've provided a link in here. They are a steel frame wishbone type structure. This allows for lots of flexibility within the building. It also reduces long-term liability in the event that the City of Auburn asks us 10 years from now to move the facility. We have the ability to move all of the components and deconstruct the facility itself and move it. So we don't have any below grade structures in our facility. The sprung structures are used throughout the state of California. We're currently finalizing the earthquake balance on our structure, and that's sort of, we've been doing that in a batch performance for several locations. So that is where the engineering status is on that building. The large commercial access points are fully equipped with all state requirements, including fire suppression, safety equipment. So we specifically design our facility to go into your community. So it's not a retrofit. We come in as a blank slate and we build to the state standards around it. All offices are within the building itself, so there's no outbuildings. This allows us for above ground, similar to the catwalks that you see around the wastewater treatment plant, where they have the ability to look into the tanks. This allows us to have that same operation, but we are within the sprung structure itself. Next slide, please. This gives you an idea of what the tanks look like. It does, in some ways, look like a bit of a brewery. Everybody's always wondering what goes on in these tanks. To the left of the screen, you see a membrane wall. In there are raceways. They are look like above ground swimming pools. In there, we raise regionally specific algae that is harvested and digested in these tanks. The purpose of the algae is we sequester the CO2 or any CO2 emissions into that raceway. There is a floor that sits above the raceways, and that floor has hanging plants. So any of the CO2 that the algae doesn't digest goes into the plants that do a final respiration on that CO2 and absorb it in there. The algae is a 5-day process. It goes through the digesters, similar to what you see in anaerobic digesters for large agricultural commercial. But as you can see, all of the gas that comes off the top is piped in, controlled, and then used within the facility itself. In the event that we have a surplus gas, the gas is then actually sent to a generator that we have, which is a Stirling engine, and it will utilize that surplus gas and push it to a second battery bank. So within here, it's a very simple design. It takes into consideration anaerobic digestion, which has been used in process operation for the better part of 100 years. So there's nothing new in the way of technology. It's an inventive way of folding multiple systems together to the benefit of a community. Next slide, please. So in simple, we take organic waste from forests or the dewatered sludge. We go through the integrated process. We create renewable electricity out of it and commercial agricultural products. The products that will be produced at this facility will be hauled out on a weekly basis and warehoused within Auburn or within California. We're still figuring out where our distribution point will be. These are organic certified products for the purposes of agriculture, remediation, and commercial greenhouses and gardening products. So the products will be brought, are certified under USDA, and they are fully USDA organic certified. So we are now just working on the next phase when the products are produced in California, finalizing the California brand for production and sale within the state of California. Next slide, please. This gives you a couple of little quick slides on what the level of detail that we go into when we talk about the engineering and how the system operates. So we can jump on the next one. Our system looks very much like a wastewater treatment plant. So the gentlemen that work at the wastewater treatment plant, they're very used to this type of diagram. It's fully integrated with both desktop and remote access. So this is the anaerobic digesters. It shows temperatures, permissions, allows us to agitate, move. We have the ability for full remote and on-site emergency shutdown and suppression. We have a tanking, what we call a release tank that stores anything. So in the event a pipe breaks, everything is contained within the system itself. The entire operation does not operate at above any temperature that is beyond what you would find in your kitchen in your house. So the OCE, the pyrolysis system, is the same, does not exceed your broil temperature in the oven that you actually operate in your house. And the systems here within the tank are low pressure systems as well. So full reporting, full integration, if required, into the wastewater treatment plant. If that was the preference of Auburn, to be able to have emergency shutdowns that are managed by the wastewater treatment plant, that's an easy integration and a simple online app that we have for them to have full control of the system in the event of an emergency. The next slide, please. This gives you an idea of what we look like from above, from a structure itself. Sprung structures are built with a ring around the outside, full cement ring, and 2/3 of this are then a concrete slab. The reason for the concrete slabs allows for better dust control and suppression. The other side is a gravel base, which allows for better water management and drainage. Any water that comes off the building itself is actually recycled back into the facility. So the only waste product that comes out of here would come from the bathroom or the restroom services at the facility itself. The facility is 90% self-sufficient, so only in startup and shutdown do we actually have the draw to actually utilize any other outside resources. So as a high level, that's really what the system is. From our application standpoint, we are in the final phases of engineering. We have 2 sister facilities similar to the proposed development at Auburn. And they're going through, as I stated earlier, the earthquake analysis to ensure that what we're doing aligns both with the sister facility in Christchurch, New Zealand, as it does in Auburn, and ensuring that we haven't missed all of those pieces. We tend to build our operations in batch production. So we are into what we refer to our warm weather climate construction phase here in final engineering pieces. The application and response to the City of Auburn questions are in final draft, and we'll await any comments from this evening's meeting to fold into that and then submit to City of Auburn for review and feedback. Thank you.
Oh, all right. Does that conclude your presentation?
It does.
Yes, absolutely. We are happy to, answer any questions that may have risen that you would like to allocate the time towards.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I note that a lot of this information is similar to the information you provided us several years ago. You said with regards to the application that you're in the process of, because you had submitted an application and we provided you with a long list of things that needed to be addressed. And so you're working on those items now?
So the answers we've actually completed the answers. We're into the final engineering phase for a package.
Sorry, I have a hard time hearing
Sorry.
you. I'm sorry.
No, sorry. So we've completed the answers and they're in an internal review. And then we're just finishing up the engineering drawings for the package so that we actually have the full profile of the landscape and how it folds into the wastewater treatment plant. We did take a bit of a longer review process than originally intended, but we wanted to make sure that what we were proposing was the right fit for a long-term use at the city with the City of Auburn and the potential to grow if required.
Okay. Now I know that you had mentioned the facility in New Zealand. You said that it's undergoing seismic review. So do you have an approved project in New Zealand? Do you actually have an approved project? Or are you still in the proposal phase?
So they're actually in the same phase that Auburn is in now. So it actually goes to council tomorrow. And they're running as sister facilities. And that is sort of how we like to approach them, is that when we go through that engineering phase, it makes allows for a more succinct approach to the development. So we know we have land approval. We're just waiting for the final approval on the facility itself. We expect that Mike from New Zealand is listening. So I don't want to, we expect approval before Christmas and to be going into fabrication for production there next winter, as they're in the opposite season to us. So yeah, we're actually hoping to be up and running within 6 months.
So they're actually much far ahead than we are, because
In the design phase from an engineering, I think it's just the nature of Mike is one of New Zealand is one of the original partners, so they've had a bit of a longer lead time and a longer conversation time. And what we've noticed is that conversation time is not uncommon right now in the market. So we're within about 90 days of one another, I think, on the approval timelines as to where we are.
So, but with the city of Auburn tonight, this is an informational item only, and
Correct.
have to submit your application and it goes through the planning commission. I mean, even if you were to submit something tomorrow, we're far from 90 days out. But
Absolutely.
that you're where you're going with the other one. So thank you. I do appreciate hearing about that. So then, and I'll open this up to my council members for questions. Again, I know that you had submitted an application and that we provide quite a laundry list of things to accomplish. I think we still need to get that data, and including the traffic study, to really determine whether or not it makes sense to even put something out there. Because, our wastewater treatment facility is critical infrastructure, and having the public have access to it via our regular hauling roads. I mean, there are many, many things. So looking forward to all the data and, what that has to say. And I'm in reserve. I may have some additional questions, but I like to open this up for my colleagues. Usually I let my colleagues go and I go last, but I just wanted to ask those quick things. But yes. How about Councilman Holmes? Councilman Holmes, would you like to ask a question?
Yes, as you may be aware, Placer County Water Agency is planning to do not a similar project, but a project in that same area. And I'm wondering if there might be some conflict in what they're doing and what we're planning to do.
Mike or Alex, do you want to field this one a little bit, as you guys are a little bit closer to the Placer development?
Sure, I can hop in. As we understand it, the main competition that would ever come from these two types of facilities are the feedstock that would be going into these projects in order to, I guess, supply the feedstock that gets turned into the beneficial use product. To that end, as we understand it, the type of technology is a completely different ball game. And as a result, and also with the scale of that project compared to the scale of this project, which I believe from a power standpoint was somewhere around 10% of the scale, that would be a much more, a much bigger problem if it was the like for like technology. But because we have a dependent feedstock source from the wastewater treatment plant, and that we could take a lot more low grade, so to speak, organic waste such as yard debris, community waste, food scraps, as Cara was saying, agricultural, food product waste, that allows us to be a lot more resilient compared to those sorts of, types of technologies. In this case, we anticipate having enough feedstock secured that both facilities could operate, peacefully and coexist.
Well, the reason I asked the question is, correct me if I'm wrong, but there is some product that would be shipped out on trucks. Is that right? From this
I'm sorry, Councilman, you're very quiet all of a sudden. Can you perhaps lean closer to your microphone?
All right, I will speak slowly and more loudly.
It's still a little quiet. I don't know if it's just me. Do you guys?
Asking, as to whether or not.
There we go. That's better.
Material that will be generated from the facility that would be shipped off. And I think you're,
Kari, jump.
yes, it's biochar.
Yes,
Why don't you
so
jump in,
we
Kari?
actually create a commercial and a retail product that is shipped and sold as revenue from the facility. So unlike a standard biomass to power facility, we actually create a product that is stored on site and then shipped weekly to a warehouse for distribution and sold into the organics market. So farmers, reclamation, greenhouses purchase the product that is produced from the facility itself.
Well, my understanding is that the PCWA project would also have trucks taking products off, and I'm wondering about how many vehicles are going to be involved in both these operations. And, you know, we're trying to keep the mileage and other things down.
And
Absolutely.
that is, yeah, absolutely. Part of the traffic study and part of what we focus on, if there was a truck leaving from another site, from the site itself, and they had the availability to share space, from an operations perspective, we would never want to see a half-empty truck leaving the wastewater treatment plant. So we would actually partner or work with, when possible, if they're open to it, to ensure either we're coordinating events and sharing space. So often you'll get what they refer to as a single load or a light load. If they've got a light load and have the ability to take our product with theirs and reduce that traffic, that's part of that very key element in that traffic study that is key to coordinated events on a small footprint. Absolutely, Councilman. It's significant.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman, did you have any other questions at this time?
No.
Go ahead. Yes, Councilwoman.
I just have a couple. I'm sure you'll have many more. So I just have some basic questions. So we're talking about trucks going in and out. Do we know approximately how, and thank you, by the way, for your presentation. Very informative, very helpful, very scientific. So do we have an idea of how many would, you know our area, you've researched it, how many would go in and out each day or each week?
Yeah, so what we're
approximately.
looking, yeah, so what we're trying to do is we're actually trying to stay below the threshold that the shipping from the removal of the wastewater, so the trucking that's currently going on to remove the biosolids from the facility, that trucking, we are trying to stay below that threshold that is currently already in place. So that is our key agenda. Sorry, I'm working from home tonight, and I apologize if my dog is barking. But sorry for that. We're just trying to stay below that threshold. That is the key, is that we want to have a smaller vehicle impact and maximize the use of the product within it. So as we can bring in truck and store on site, unlike the movement of the waste, the biosolids that has to be moved regularly, we believe the traffic will actually below the current shipping and removal of the biosolids from site. So we're looking to be about 10% below that number.
And do you anticipate you'll have enough area for storage?
Yes, so we have plenty of area for storage, and the way the facility is designed, we actually can take storage and put it into sea-cans, and then what happens is the auger just simply moves it from it. So we have the ability to hold above ground versus having to disturb ground. And that also gives us much more, it gives us better fire suppression control as well. We don't have anything on the ground. So debris that needs to be cleared up in the area, it's inside a sea-can. It has the ability for fire suppression. And then within our facility, because we have excess heat, we then address the moisture content when we're processing it. So we have that sort of give and take within the facility itself. So sea-cans is the answer to a lot of things, which seems odd, but it is. It's like Lego blocks, and that allows for the facility, the water treatment plant If they need us to move because they have to do a repair or an expansion, CCAMs are easy to move. And that's really part of the key here, is that we can bend and flex with the growth within the wastewater treatment facility.
Okay. And then just some basic questions. So the cost to the city would be the land. And would there be any other cost?
That would,
You're correct. It would just be the land. You would result in a net reduction of operational costs, which is the value to the city.
And what about ongoing costs? Is that absorbed by your company?
Correct, yes. And
Correct.
the facility is funded by the revenue generated by the sale of the organic commercial agricultural products.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. I have no other question. Thank you.
hey, Councilwoman.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation. It's always great to hear about methods for us to be able to reduce our carbon footprint and become more sustainable. So I really appreciate you coming to the council and making a suggestion that can allow us to get closer to that. I was curious, where there's a lot of talk about 1383 and all the organics that we are going to either try to reduce if we get that law changed, or the organics that we may have to take back, or all kinds of fun things. I was wondering if this facility has the capability of dealing with residential and commercial organics and could be a possible solution to mitigate some of those costs.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that was part of where, when the questions first came out after our initial introduction, it was a question that I think I believe Council had raised before, and it is. We have the ability to be flexible and grow with the council and the community to address those other types of organic wastes. The nature of the facility is to move and grow versus to be stagnant and not be able to change. So we do have the capacity and have sister systems that can address wet organics, food organics, and the liquid that comes off of them would actually go through our process and then become part of our end products that are actually sold back as an organic. So we have that ability to fold in additional systems as needed and still be able to provide power. So it's a very low power consuming facility. It's very passive. So it still affords the ability to provide some behind grid or microgrid or alternative uses for that green energy. So we don't consume everything we produce, not even close.
Okay. As I understand it, that's where kind of the differences between this product and PCWA's. Their goal is really to produce power from green products that are not any kind of municipal product, organics, anything like that. It would just be mainly trees and those types of things. So that's kind of the main difference between the two. This has a lot more flexibility and a way of us reducing our costs and impact on rates to our customer or to our residents. The other thing that I was going to ask, as far as financials go, I know Sandy brought it up, but how do the financials, you're going to be constructing this project that's several $1 million, and you're not going to be asking anything from us. So where does the financing for that come from? And then your organics long-term, and then there's PPA. So those are going to be the ongoing costs, but I'm assuming there's some startup capital that's required.
Yeah, so we're into the capital raise. So we've reached the point where, similar to what was with New Zealand, we need to be in that position. Most of our business partners and the parent company, we want to be where the application has gone in. The confidence is that we've selected the board has reviewed the numbers and it is the right fit for the technology. So we're into that capital raise for that final phase of funding for the construction and the construction of the facility, and then from there. The rest of Mike and Collectron have secured some additional funding in the background. So it is really a partnership to get into that phase. But the application is really the key. The investors stand there and they wait and they want to see that application go in, and that's what they're waiting for us to do now. So everybody is waiting for that application phase to get to release those funds for that next step.
Okay. I worked in R&D for a couple of years, and I know that if you're the reason why you get things for free is because you're willing to somewhat be the guinea pig and to be the test subject and kind of deal with the challenges of applications that take longer or things that may change, or trying to kind of work as a partnership versus just here's our RFP and here's a contract.
Yeah.
So I was just curious, if we didn't decide to do it now and we're forced to do something like this in 5 or 10 years when we need to deal with our organic waste coming from the water treatment plant, how much do you estimate it would cost for someone to do this if there was no additional funding and we had to fund it on our own?
That's a good question. So if you were to prolong this and then to do this on your own, you'd probably be looking at a 15 to 25% increase of your cost. So if you were to bring this in-house, the increase does grow over time. And part of this is that the longer there will be additional systems, but you're going to get to a point where to be able to bring this in, you're going to incur other costs and other management fees that lead up to, the timing is now to prevent versus have to respond after the fact. So I think that's probably where we'd be. Alex, Mike, do you agree? Is that sort of a 15 to 25% increase on that
Well, an
cost?
increase from 0. So what's
At the minimum,
At the minimum,
but
yeah.
do you want a number?
I think she's looking for an estimated ballpark.
So maybe 8 to 10 million.
okay. So we get it for free now if we're willing to take a chance, and it's 8 to 10 million later if we wait. Okay. Just
Yeah,
wanted.
no one hold me to that in 10
No,
years.
we're putting
That-
we're holding our crystal balls.
And that's if the council and the city wanted to do that. I mean,
No, I know.
we're
But
not
we're gonna have-
mandated to, so
No,
just,
but we're gonna have to figure out what to do with organics at some point, including our organics that come from our wastewater.
someday,
plant.
but right.
So,
Yeah.
and at this point, it would save us $200,000 a year. So that's still a benefit right there. And then the other question, you said there's a PPA possibility for the energy that comes from this. How much energy would it produce? And then also, would it be possible for us to get a better rate than we currently would get on our electricity?
To answer your second question first, yes, absolutely. You would get a better rate and be able to lock in a better rate than you're currently paying for the next 25 years, which is mirroring what you would standardly see in a PPA similar to what you've signed before for that solar system. And that's a great strategy for locking in a lower, electricity rate, as you're well aware. The facility will produce more than the existing shortfall that the wastewater treatment plant has currently, which is about 800 megawatt hours per annum. How much more is dependent upon exactly how many counterparties that we have to take that power. We've even had extremely preliminary conversations with representatives at the local CCA at Pioneer Energy for potentially, if a similar deal was available to what you just described, then they would even potentially look towards partnering with us to supply electricity to some other of their clients. So it's just a standard energy developer play once the facility is up and running. But really the emphasis that we want to make is that it's not necessarily a requirement. We can actually make this facility work just from a sludge disposal standpoint. So, and organics, recycling. So by that, only that business model alone would be effective for saving the city that money and, us operating that facility.
Okay, great. Thank you. I think that's all I had.
Thank you very much. I did just have a couple of questions. When this originally came to the council, I had a lot of questions. I submitted some questions in writing. I didn't receive a lot of responses back, but I don't really want to rehash this. I do have my concerns. First and foremost, the wastewater treatment plant, that facility exists there for a purpose. And that is my main priority, is ensuring that we can run that wastewater treatment plant safely and securely and efficiently and effectively. And I think that has to be the city's #1 priority. The question I have is how much property do you really need? I mean, you've provided sort of a little generic drawing, but what are you thinking about? How much property at the wastewater treatment plant are you thinking about?
So the actual, sorry.
Yeah,
So-
please, go ahead, Carl.
From a footprint point of view, that's why we identified that area, is that we're about 125 feet by about 80 feet is the actual building itself, plus the ingress and egress. We can actually tuck everything into that building itself and do a 2-story. So we actually have the ability to be quite small, and any orientation. So we don't have a fixed orientation in the building itself.
But I mean, for storage for your entire operation. So your,
This includes the storage to meet the ingress, to meet the traffic that is currently going in and out, because the product that's actually brought in, when it leaves our site, it is 40% in volume. It's 60% smaller than the volume that we receive. It's actually reduced by 60% when it leaves. So we actually package and remove it in a format that would be in a truck, similar to what would leave in the format that was leaving to take the waste disposal off the site. So from a storage perspective, we're very small compared to the sister facility that is proposed down the road.
can you tell me that figure again? I'm sorry. I wanted to write it down.
So when you take a biomass product through a pyrolysis unit, you see
No,
about
no.
60%.
What was the square footage? Sorry.
Oh, so about 125 by 80 square feet. So it's 125 feet. My metric to my metric conversion is working in my brain right now. So yeah.
What is it in meters, Kari?
Yeah. The entire footprint that we operate our other facilities at is a 60 by 60 meter footprint, and that is with truck access, full fencing, full security, and gate control. And that gives us full material storage in an area where we only use a single story facility instead of dual storage.
Okay, thank you. Another question I had is, I know that when you initially brought this to us, your focus really was on power generation and wanting to sell the power. And when we talked about separating it from biochar and power, that was a no deal. That would be a no deal. But it sounds like now you're talking about the majority of your revenue would come from the biochar versus power. That power would be secondary. Is that what you're, so that's a difference from when you originally came to us?
Yeah, I think there might have been a little bit, and I know you're referencing directly my response on that one, Mayor. So I think though that we are looking at the power as a supplement or a complement to the existing city needs, and that is that amount of power that we're looking to complement your.
So
desire
you're
there.
not looking to sell on the market, because originally you were talking about selling.
Well,
on
I think we,
power.
yeah, I think because of the amount of power that we retain that option above and beyond the city's needs, there'll be excess power there that will be available that could go out to market.
Okay. And I know that we have not discussed, a PPA or anything of that caliber. There's a lot of other issues that surround that particular piece of it, but that is something that is different from the last time that you came before us. So, again, I know that you've submitted an application. There was a laundry list of things that need to be addressed. This does have to go through the regular planning process, the planning commission. There's environmental review that's required. Probably, whether or not you get through a mitigated neg deck or have to go full CEQA, I don't know. I know there's an archaeological issue, so that might trigger CEQA, full CEQA. But, at this point, again, this is just informational item only, just giving us an update on where you are in the process. I just want to remind folks, this is not a done deal. This is a proposal that's before the city council, and actually will go before the planning commission first, and then would only come to us, I guess, really, if it was appealed, or there might be an additional piece of that. But what I would like to do is, I'd like to ask staff, if you have any questions yourselves, or any concerns that you'd like to raise in this public forum.
I'd say that, staff does have concerns about this project, only looking at the impact that the project would have to the treatment plant itself. And, it's a public facility. And so anytime we talk about these kinds of projects, we view them through the lens of not wanting to negatively impact a public resource that we have. Treatment plant is obviously a key piece of city facility that we don't want to have a negative impact to. And so, we're waiting to see the responses to the letter that we sent out to the folks, and then weigh those responses back. One of the things that struck me is that there was a comment about making sure that the amount of traffic going in and out of the site is a net decrease over what's there now. And I don't know, obviously we need to wait and see traffic study and do all that stuff. I don't know how that would work with trucks bringing material in and then also trucks hauling material out. Whereas now we just have trucks taking our sludge out. So maybe it does work. I don't know, because we haven't seen the results of that letter yet. So, but just the idea of making sure that this doesn't negatively impact the wastewater treatment plant and negatively impact our neighbors as well,
Yes.
is that's basically our key concern. And we can't really respond to that until we have the responses back to that letter that we sent today. All right. Menjel
He's
gives
got
me a
this,
thumbs up.
the thumbs up on the Menjel?
First of all, hello, Michael. Hello, Carrie. Hello, Alex. I would be remiss if I didn't say I also had some additional concerns. The wastewater treatment plant is the city's biggest asset. So for me, I think seeing the final plans and how everything is going to work and is going to be a key component of whether I'm extremely comfortable with it or not. I'll say this about these guys. They've been diligently working about bringing this to us, and we just need to see a little bit more before my comfort level will be there. So.
The devil is in the details, as it always is. We all know that, right? So,
I'd just like
Jonathan?
to also reiterate just some concerns because there's some procedural requirements here. We're looking at a use that was never anticipated in the zone, even though, should be forward thinking and so forth, but it's going to be a public process. So there's going to be hurdles, appeals, as mentioned, possibly. There's just a lot to go through. I'm going to stipulate to the record on the letter as far as what type of information we're going to get back, but there's also civic design review out there. So making sure we get all of our elevations and everything. So it has a long ways to go. We've discussed the legislative process and the timeframes for that, and looking forward to seeing what they submit back. So.
Mhm. Good. Is there any public comment on this item? Okay, no public comment. All right. Well, thank you very much for the update, and we'll wait for the next phase.
Thank you very much for your time this evening.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you all. Happy holidays.
Thank you. Happy holidays to you too. And good luck in Christchurch.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move along to item number 15. This is our AB 38 Defensible Space Inspection Program update. Good evening, Chief. Interim Chief.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. John Rogers, your interim fire chief. And tonight before you is an update on AB 38 ordinance and the Defensible Space Inspection Program that was brought forward by our former fire chief in the beginning of this year. All right, so for background, in late 2022, we teamed with MGT Consulting and had them do a fire inspection fee schedule. In January of 2023 and February of 2023, that fee schedule was brought before you guys and was adopted and implemented in April of this year. Included in those presentations by former fire chief was the Defensible Space Inspection Program. And what that program entailed was inspecting every residential parcel within the city of Auburn on a 3-year cycle. So what that works out to be is approximately 1,800 homes per year. And each one of those inspections to start based on the fee schedule would cost every resident $211. Working with Lindsay, our community risk reduction manager, who's done some of these inspections already, we estimated, depending on the amount of work at each residence, the inspection time would be 30 to 60 minutes for the initial inspection. So the total inspection time would be 900 to 1,800 staff hours per year. And then we're unable to estimate any time for follow-up inspections. So also in the original proposal was the proof of concept to have the engine company personnel go out and complete all of those inspections. What wasn't discussed or proposed was the community outreach or town hall meeting, excuse me, it was discussed, but it was never completed. A follow-up report to the city council, and then an ordinance implemented to follow the original inspection program. So continuing, what wasn't considered was adequate and appropriate staffing to do a full defensible space inspection program. And we can't support a proof of concept by utilizing our engine company personnel for that. The added workload to the engine company would reduce their attention to critical tasks such as emergency response, training, station, and equipment maintenance. The impact to the other city departments wasn't considered as well. So for example, to the finance department, if we had to process 1,800 inspections, that would be invoicing and processing 1,800 payments. If we come across parcels that aren't in compliance, those would potentially have to go to code enforcement. And that wasn't considered, nor writing warrants to go back and do follow-up inspections on people that didn't want to let us on their property. And then following up with anything with the city attorney, such as liens or other legal matters. Additionally, printing, postage, and records retention wasn't discussed. And then, like I said before, the re-inspections. Also not considered was a negative impact to our residents. For example, if we go out and we do an inspection and document that that person failed, and then for some reason there's an issue at their house that they have to take to their insurance company, can or will the insurance company deny their claim based on a failed inspection? And then following up on that is the financial impact to all of the homeowners to bring their homes into compliance. For example, hiring a tree or a brush removal company. And then also following up with that would be our low and fixed income residents and or our elderly and disabled residents. What are we doing now? Our current prevention efforts. Our community risk reduction manager has been writing grants. This year alone, $820,000 has been awarded. She's also been collaborating with the Greater Auburn Area Fire Safe Council, working to support their efforts in educational events and Firewise communities, etc. Lindsay's also been managing the hazard fuel reduction project on all of our city parcels so that we can set the example to our residents. Also, our state mandated inspections. So the state fire marshal requires us to inspect schools, hotels, motels, and apartment complexes. We also have our new construction plan check and review that we're responsible for. We have weed abatement activities that is a complaint-driven process, and we found that when we work with our residents, we have extremely high compliance rates, and then our Assembly Bill 38 inspections as requested. So basically what I'd like to propose is to return to the city council with an AB 38 inspection ordinance for homes within the very high fire hazard severity zone as recommended by CAL FIRE. And you can see up on the screen is the FRAP map. So that's the city of Auburn, and on the eastern edge is what they identify as the very high fire hazard severity zone.
I think I see my house. I see Sandy's house, Rachel.
Yep, on the east side of town along the American River Canyon. We're estimating 15 to 30 inspections per year based on the housing market. It's all based on the housing market, and the revenue that would be generated based on us completing those inspections would be $3,200 to $6,400 annually. And just a summary of AB 38 in 2019, it was established that as of July 1st of 2021, seller of real property located in the high or very high fire hazard severity zone would provide the buyer with documentation the property is in compliance with defensible space requirements. And that's for the SRA, or the state responsibility area. For the LRA, the local responsibility area, the city of Auburn, it's only required in the very high fire hazard severity zone. And speaking with our city attorney, we do need to have an ordinance in place that allows us to do these inspections. Continuing with the proposal is to reinstitute an educational campaign and work with our external stakeholders, the Greater Auburn Area Fire Safe Council, some FireWise communities, maybe some homeowners associations. We have to identify that, provide some educational assessment trainings, and then collaborate with our stakeholders to provide free educational assessments. And then to continue with our current weed abatement enforcement process. And like I stated earlier, we see high compliance rates when we work directly with our residents. What's a benefit of the proposed program is that all new homeowners in the very high fire hazard severity zones will be purchasing compliant homes, and they'll get education upon coming into the city of Auburn. It's also going to foster the relationship with our residents, that we're going to go out and work with our community and provide them with some education. And finally, it's sustainable based on our existing staffing levels. So in conclusion, this evening, I'm looking for direction from the council to accept the proposed program, to accept part of it, or direct staff to return with alternatives.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your report. And I'll open this up to questions from my colleagues on the city council. Are there questions? Councilwoman Riddell Harris.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. It was really a great presentation to show us kind of what we had done, what we had thought might be a good idea versus the unintended consequences of those things. I was wondering if you could go back to the recommended with the map to show how many inspections that we're gonna want to do.
Did I pass it?
Sorry.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
Oh,
There we go.
There it is.
So that's the FRAP map.
Okay.
And like I said earlier, the properties in red on the eastern side of the city is what our subject matter experts, CAL FIRE, have deemed as residents within the very high fire hazard severity zone.
So we would charge them for these?
So yes, we can if we adopt an ordinance that says that we can. And what our fee schedule came back, I believe, is $211 per inspection.
Okay, and then there is still the issue that we had before of elderly, disabled, low-income folks who may live in those areas. So is this only when they sell their house?
This is only during a transaction, a sale of a home.
Okay, and they
Yep.
can use, if they can use the benefits of, and if they don't have any income and they're selling their home, I'm just trying to make sure that they can use the money from the sale maybe to pay for it.
It would be my understanding that the listing and the agents would
It
coordinate.
would be an
figure that out.
escrow. It would be
Okay.
an
I just
escrow.
wanted to make sure that was
Yeah.
clear, that was how it would be generated. And you do have the staffing, because I know we've had some staffing issues lately with some folks being out. So we do have the staffing anticipated to be able to achieve this?
So I'll tell you that in the last year, we've been requested to do 6 inspections.
That's per
eight-
AB 38.
Per AB 38. We've
Okay.
been requested to do 6 of them. We're just, myself and Lindsay Davidson having some discussion. We're anticipating 15 to 30. It just depends on how many houses get
In
sold
that-
in
in
that
that-
area.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I just wanted to piggyback before I on that because really right now we are conducting the AB 38 inspections. We're required to, or well, we're not required to, but the seller and the buyers are required to have those inspections conducted. So we do them now. We're just not charging for them. Is that how it works? Because we don't have an ordinance?
So the fee would apply now because you all have adopted it. And so for inspections that occur at request and also under weed abatement or other types of inspections, that fee can be charged. There's not currently an ordinance that requires an inspection that would trigger the fee though.
But right now we're conducting AB 38 inspections.
I believe we've done approximately
6.
6 of them since June of 2022.
But we haven't charged for them. We've just conducted them. Is that correct? That's what I'm just trying to get at. Have we charged for those 6 inspections? Do we know? We charged for 2?
2 of the 6.
Consistent.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Two
It-
people use
Okay, so I just want to be clear on the ordinance, though. We need the ordinance in place in order to charge the fee. We already established the fee. So we need the ordinance for and we should really be charging the fee to everybody.
Well, remember I said June of 2022 is when we started. The fee schedule didn't go into place until 2023,
Yeah.
the new fee schedule.
Okay, so the other ones were done before. Okay, so it wasn't a random thing. It's just that those inspections were conducted before we established the fee.
That's my
Okay,
understanding.
then
And-
that makes sense. Okay, good.
And to follow up on your other question, you need an ordinance to require an inspection. Right? So-
But the,
Mhm.
so, but again, the AB 38 requires the inspection, it be done by somebody.
Yeah, so the actual language there says if a local agency has an ordinance requiring an inspection, then a seller will disclose the results of that in selling, right?
Got
So
it.
this is-
Okay,
so
okay.
That's where the origin of this ordinance came from, and as the current chief mentioned with the prior chief and the fee to put in place. and that's
Okay,
what this ordinance
exactly. Okay, I understand now. So really, what you're proposing to do is just, it's reducing the program so that it's, AB 38 only. We adopt the ordinance, then we can go ahead and conduct the inspections 15 to 30 a year just on those sales. We'll collect a fee for that, which is really the fee that is our actual cost. So that we can do that. And then, what if folks requested to have that kind of an inspection done? I mean,
So we offer defensible space inspections. There's a link on our website that we go out and we give an educational
and
inspection to
that's
our
for free
residents
versus an actual inspection that's going to disclose.
that would go into an escrow packet.
Okay, so would it be safe to say that what would go in the escrow packet would be maybe a little more detailed? It would be in writing. When you come out to do a defensible space inspection now, it's a discussion with the property owner. You're not really submitting some kind of form or something like that, and we're not charging a fee for those.
You get a full form
You
that
do?
has the payment on it and
So the people that request the defensible space, they would be charged too?
the form that we use now is for the AB 38 style inspection.
But
And there's a box on it that you would check that that's what it's for. We
Okay.
do a similar inspection that's just educational based only.
And yeah, the fee would apply.
It would
Excuse me?
apply?
The fee would currently apply the way that it's been adopted.
Okay, so if you just asked for a defensible space inspection for your own property, there would be a fee for that. We don't do that for free.
Yeah, so there is some discrepancy on when it's charged, but yes, the fee adopted by you all is in the master fee schedule that would apply to that type of inspection. Yes.
Oh, yeah, it was less, I think.
Well,
think there was.
I guess I just, I
update.
thought that we did, and I have no problem with, with, reducing the size of the project, the proposal from where it was. Clearly, our staffing issue is a significant issue for us. We don't have the manpower to do it. So I have no issue with that. I'm just trying to get to, so I'm okay with doing adopting an ordinance for the AB 38 only inspections. But I'm just trying to get at those, again, that when folks call and say, hey, could you come out and take a look at my property and let me know what I can do to reduce my fire hazard? We do that now for free, but it's different than the inspection. I'm just saying, hey, I got some trees here. Could you come? Right now, we're not charging for that, right? Right?
There's two, right? If we go out and we provide education,
Yeah,
it's different than if we go out and do a full inspection.
an inspection, because you're going to have on the inspection, there's going to be point by point by point. You're going to see what's, you're going to measure this and that and the other thing. Otherwise, you're just going to come out, you're going to say, you probably want to trim these trees, they're too close to your roof. You want to get rid of that kind of stuff. So I just want to make sure that we can still provide guidance and education to folks, so that we can keep our properties clear, without having to fold into that fee. The inspection we need to charge for, there's a form, there's a,
Time.
10, it's more time consuming. It's a 10 point, 20 point, whatever it is. But that was all really. I just want to make sure that we're going to be able to still have that educational piece. And you're saying yes.
And that's what we're proposing is to have the required inspection and then to support it with an educational campaign.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
To work with our stakeholders, the Fire Safe Council, the homeowners associations, the Firewise communities. And then in 2021, the Rhodey report came out and there's 9 neighborhoods that are identified in that report as well.
So then, I really like the idea of using the Greater Fire Safe Council. I know that I've talked about appropriating, some funds to them for educational purposes. So, and it would be great to just really fold them right into this and, so I'm hoping that can happen as part of that educational piece. So again, we're not talking a lot about dollars, but, I think that the more assistance you can have on the educational front, the better. Lindsay does a phenomenal job, but oh my gosh, she's getting tasked with so much. So I just want to, be able to help you out to the best of our ability, really. It's what I'm looking for. So thank you for letting me piggyback on that. Yes, Council.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you very much. And I really do support the suggestion. And I do really like the idea of the educational component as well. And utilizing our other resources like the Fire Safe Council and volunteers or whoever to help us educate people and get the word out. But thank you very much. That's a very prudent way to go. I appreciate that.
Councilman Holmes, do you have any questions or comments?
Well, I sort of echo what Sandy had to say.
Okay, well, that's easy. Thank you very much. Public comment on this item? No public comment on this item? Okay. So you're asking for staff direction on this particular item and your recommendation is to move forward with the ordinance, correct? For the AB 38 inspection and also to ramp up our educational efforts. So am I summarizing that correctly?
Yep.
Okay, so that shall be the motion. Is there a second?
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Amara.
Yes.
Holmes.
Aye.
Riddell Harris. Mayor Dowden Kelvia.
Aye. Let the record show the motion has been adopted unanimously. Thank you very much, Chief, for bringing this item forward. We appreciate your comments and thank you so much.
Thanks. Have a good evening.
You too. Thank you. Excellent. All right, city manager report.
Yeah. Whoa,
We're awake now.
sorry about wake you up between the cold and the noise.
Yeah, we fixed
All
the
right.
air conditioner in here.
They're hot up there though.
We're just making sure it works. Keep you on your toes. So with council's approval of the reclassification of the Administrative Services Director position to Finance Director, we'll begin the recruitment for that position tomorrow. As council knows, our Admin Services Director recently resigned, as Councilmember Holmes pointed out earlier. We have our longtime finance consultant, Andy Heath, serving on an interim basis for now. So the intent would be to advertise starting tomorrow, applications due sometime mid-December, start interviews after the first of the year and get somebody hired quickly. City was recently awarded this ties back to the bicycle discussion we had. City was recently awarded a Safe Streets for All grant of $400,000 to help plan for complete streets, which includes bicycle lanes. That'll also be part of our circulation element, as the Vice Mayor added. We were just awarded that grant, so we're going to begin working on that soon. And then the last thing I have is that the county recently released the notice of preparation for their housing element rezone project. So the notice of preparation is the notice that they're going to prepare an EIR for that rezone project. So that includes upzoning several parcels throughout the city's sphere of influence, including in the Bowman area. Some of those parcels proposed for upzoning were included in the county's housing element, but many weren't. And their proposed increase in density disproportionately impacts Auburn. And because of that, staff's preparing a comment letter on the NOP with our general plan consultant and our city attorney assisting staff in preparing that. So I'll make sure council members get a copy of that letter once it's finished. That's all that I have.
Thank you. Other reports, Councilman Holmes? We're gonna move on to City Council Committee reports at this time. Councilman Holmes, do you have anything to report?
No.
Councilwoman Riddell Harris?
Yes, I have, I've been keeping track since I'm the liaison to the school districts. I've been keeping track of what's going on with AUSD, and they recently voted to switch all three campuses, Auburnell, Skyridge, and E.V. Kane to a K-8 over a elementary school and middle school at E.V. Kane. I will say personally, I'm a little bit concerned about some students having to go to their third school in 3 years and how that will impact our numbers in the district, and also about middle school students that may not want to next year. So it's going to be 3 school the fall. So there's not a great plan on how that's going to work. And there's a lot of concerns because some teachers were just moved. So those teachers can't get moved again. And there's going to be a lot of mess in the how. I have a feel it is, except for it isn't, because if we lose more kids in our district because of constant changes, then we have some problems because we need to have a good school district in order to have economic development here. We want to be able to bring businesses here, and part of that is being able to say that we have a good school district that their kids can attend. So, I'm going to be scheduling meetings with AUSD and also with the high school district, just to kind of get a sense of where things are and make sure we're keeping track on what the plans are, especially at AUSD moving forward, because we have a lot of presence in the schools through police. We have a lot of impacts on transportation, because every time I go to one of the schools, our transit buses are sitting there waiting to pick kids up from school every day. So there's a lot of things that even subtly will impact us as the transition happens between the schools. And then there's a lot of our own residents who are teachers and things that are maybe moved around, and a lot of people who may not be happy and maybe moving around schools. So it could have a large impact on our community. There's also concerns that it could impact Placer due to changes in band and sports and things like that, about being competitive and all those kinds of things.
So, and I appreciate that. I just want to make sure that we're always clear on the division of responsibilities and authority, and that, the schools are governed by their own elected body, and,
Oh yeah, definitely. But it doesn't mean that the schools don't impact the city.
and it doesn't mean we can't get information.
Yeah.
So I understand you're in the information gathering, so.
And we try to assist them however we can, whether we know we are or not. So thank you.
Okay. Councilwoman.
Thank you.
Tamar.
Yes, we had a SHAC meeting, and I won't go into too much detail unless, do you want to hear who's on being approved?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, Tom Johnson, Monroe Desjarnais, Joanne Neff, and the historical tiles will be John Engel, Jacob Neff, Gussie Stewart, Virginia Bell. And they're all very interesting. It's very
Wow.
educational. I love it.
Yeah.
And of course, Dan Olmsted is, I think he's on coming.
Is he going to be approved yet, or?
Yes, very soon.
Okay. So now,
And then there's going to be some sort of, we'll have some sort of party where we're going to unveil all these. And then there was a sustainability meeting, and that was just kind of business as usual. And the most important thing, though, is I rode the on-demand bus Friday night. Wonderful. I went to Josephine's, had dinner, and they came right over. Well, I had to actually go up to the station, and then they brought me home. It was wonderful. So I encourage everyone to keep that going. I've been telling people, and even though you have done a great campaign, there's still people that don't know that we have this opportunity. So anyway, talk it up.
thank you.
Mhm.
So I attended the quarterly meeting for the Placer County Solid Waste Local Task Force a week or two ago. It's informational, where, an opportunity for us all to talk trash, so, talking about the MRF is undergoing some substantial changes, and there will be an opportunity where it's actually going to be empty right now. We have all that sorting, and they're actually going to replace all that equipment. So there's going to be a short duration where they've invited us to go check it out and see what the MRF looks like, empty with nothing. All that equipment will be taken out. So they continue to move forward, and all the different changes and so forth. For the CWIMP, that was approved. We had a 5-year review. It was approved by Cal Recycle. So that's good news on that front, because I know that all the jurisdictions contribute to that particular planning document. Also participated in a SACOG meeting last week. It was a relatively straightforward meeting because because we also convened, I think, the largest meeting I've ever been a part of. It was a special joint board meeting between SACOG, which has 1 million members, the Sacramento Metropolitan Air Quality Management District, the Sacramento Municipal Utility District, and the Sacramento Regional Transit District, which some members are on, several of these bodies. So we were so large, we had to meet at the Alumni Center at Sac State. So it was a big meeting, and we really just kind of talked about issues that are common across all our jurisdictions, you know, with regards to transportation, air quality, things of this nature. And at the end of all these discussions, we did adopt a resolution that will continue our discussion through our staff for the most part and try to coordinate our efforts when we're looking at specifically for federal dollars. They're really looking at, you know, the feds and the state too. They don't want to just see, SACOG is already, you know, a 6-county region. They want to see how you're collaborating with everybody else. So the municipal, you know, SMUD and regional transit and so forth. So this really does give us a, you know, an opportunity to collaborate and then to compete more for those federal and state dollars. So I don't know when luckily we don't meet on a regular basis. Staff meet on a quarterly basis, but we did have a giant meeting and I couldn't even see the people, the name placards. I couldn't read them across the room. They were so far. So in any event, we did have that meeting. I have Pioneer Community Energy this week, so I'll be having that meeting, and that's all that I have to report at this time. We do have a closed session meeting, so without objection, I will recess to closed session. Hearing no objection, that shall be the order. Thank you, everyone.